Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready. Now, normally what we do, welcome Drake, normally what we do is we talk about Age of Sigmar and everything we like about that game. We like the big army games, but this video is all about Warcry. Now, if you don't know, Age of Sigmar is a great game, super fun, love the hobby, love the game of it, but it takes some time.
Yeah. What do you mean more? It takes more than some time.
It takes quite a bit of time. You're going to have to set aside several hours if you want to play. And if you're...
At least 2.
Oh, more than that. Especially if you're like us and you don't, you've got different combinations you're doing and you're not memorizing all your abilities so great. It takes time. You got to look stuff up. But super fun. However, sometimes you want to play a game that's going to be a little bit quicker.
Yes.
So that's where skirmish games come into play. And skirmish games, in general, are much smaller model counts. So you're looking at 10 to 12-ish models.
Which is basically a unit in Warhammer.
Yeah, it could be, or more. More models might be a unit, one single unit. And you're looking, they can all do their own thing. So they're a squad of guys that's off fighting and doing their own thing. So you don't have to worry about coherency. You don't have to worry about being in particular bubbles for the most part.
Bubbles.
And so that's where Warcry comes in. So today we're going to review Warcry. I'm going to touch on one other war game that we've played, just as a comparison tool, but mostly we're going to talk about Warcry.
Wait, which one?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So Warcry is the skirmish game. It's all Warhammer.
Yeah.
So on the plus side, you get some great production values. The models are great. The terrain is pretty solid. All that is there. On the downside, it is Games Workshop, so
It's expensive.
you pay for it. You definitely pay for it.
More than it's a pretty penny. Very
It is a pretty penny. And in this particular one, so we did a video not too long ago talking about why we jumped into Warcry, but that was sort of without having played it. I just really wanted to get in. So this is the Red Harvest setup. So this is going to be a review of Warcry and how it works and why it might not be a good game for you. So basically, here's how a turn works. Both players roll 6 dice, and whoever rolls the most singles, meaning if you roll 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, those are called doubles, triples, or quads. 1 of a kinds are singles. Whoever rolls the most singles gets to go first. Now, if you rolled doubles, triples, or quads, those actually give you bonus powers. So you end up in this situation where you either don't have very many powers, but you get to go first, or
you have like a million powers.
You get more powers, but you're going to sort of be reacting. So it's sort of an interesting little mechanic. And each player gets a wild die so they can make any number. So if you really needed a double or a triple or something like that, you've got that opportunity. So it's not like you're going to get hosed by the dice rolling.
Yeah.
You set up terrain. There's a bunch of terrain cards that tell you randomly what the terrain's going to look like that game.
You get different things no matter what. There's like hundreds of
Not
things.
Hundreds. I think I want to say there's like 20 of them. I
Well,
don't know.
I mean like
You'd have to look
hundreds
at
of different ways because you're going to have to go with the thing and every single map could have a different thing.
Well, that's so after you do the terrain card, you draw a map that tells you where your unit's set up. Yeah. And that's different. And then you draw a third card that tells you what the battle's going to be like. Many of the battles, almost all the battles involve fighting. So you're attacking each other. That's
Yay!
Good. And then once you know what's going on, you take turns activating fighters back and forth. And so unlike Warhammer or Age of Sigmar, where I do all my guys move, all my guys shoot, and then we can do a little bit back and forth for combat. This one, I get to do one guy who does his one thing, and then Drake. He does his one guy who does his one thing. And we just go back and forth until we run out of fighters. For that reason, interestingly, you can have some really powerful fighters. In fact, we've had some custom lists that we've done with Stormcast and things like that, and they crush. They're so good. They just murder. But because they're so powerful, they're a higher point value. Yeah, they're expensive points-wise, so you can only have 5-ish models of Stormcast.
Whereas Nurgle, you can get like 15.
Yeah, and so I made a Nurgle list where I had like 12 models in it. And
they got smushed.
Well, yeah, if the Nurgles ever got in combat with a Stormcast, they got smushed. But the nice thing was, after 5 activations back and forth, then I got to go one right after the other.
Bang, 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 bang,
So
bang,
it's interesting that the different play styles are catered to. So then once you are on the board, you run, you fight, you get to do 2 things. You can either move, fight, disengage, which is moving away from combat, or there's a 4th one.
Use abilities.
No, that doesn't count as an action. I can't remember what the 4th one is. I guess it's not something we do very often. But mostly you're moving, you're running, and you're jumping. The rules are pretty simple. It's anything that really anybody could pick up that's at all familiar with games. You don't have to be a major gamer to pick up the rules. And because of the different cards that set up the different scenarios, there's a world of different things.
That's why I said hundreds.
Oh yeah, and once you put the combinations together,
there's like 500.
It might even be more than that. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons, and there's just a lot of replay value. I will say that when the scenarios, first there's scenarios that are symmetric. So if you really want a very even game, maybe you're at a tournament or you want a tournament style game, about half the cards and deployments are symmetrical, meaning you're basically even.
Yes.
About half are asymmetrical, meaning you're uneven. And that could benefit one side or the other, just sort of depends on how the cards shake out. The other thing is too, out of let's say there's 30 missions in the deck of missions.
There might be.
It's about that number. I don't know.
30 to 45. Number.
But let's say that there's 30. I would say probably 25 of them, 26 maybe, are amazing. Super fun, great fights. You get into it. There's about a 5th of them, somewhere in that neighborhood, that are garbage missions.
Yes. When you run treasures, you pick them up, and then you hide.
Most of the treasure missions are not great because
you have to run,
pick up the treasure, and it's like whoever has the treasure at the end wins. Well, instead of rushing in and killing and making it a fighting game that's exciting and fun, you end up getting your fastest guy on the treasure and then running away while you throw other meat shields in front. And one of the nice things about Warcry is the game only lasts 4 rounds.
Instead of 5.
Usually. Very occasionally there'll be a mission that is 3 or 5 or something like that. Very occasionally. But almost all missions are 4 rounds. So that means you only have to really, if you pick up the treasure on the first round, you only have to hide for like 3 rounds. And if I have a bunch of guys, I'll just throw meat shields in the way and make it hard for you to get to me. And especially if I have faster guys, then it's going to be hard for you to catch me and get the treasure, right? So we're not a big fan of the treasure scenarios, but other than those, I just take those out so that we don't have to worry about those. And we still have 25 or whatever the number is that are really good and give us a blast every time. And the great thing, like I said, because it's 4 rounds, including setup, the games take, 45 minutes. They are not long games. They are not long. Now, there's also a campaign way to play where you take a group of guys and you sort of see how they do over time, and you can give them like artifacts and stuff that enhance them. You give them names. It's a cool way to play. We haven't done much of that.
We've only done Paths to Glory.
Well, that's for AOS, for Age of Sigmar, but I mean for Warcry. So if you're looking for that kind of narrative thing, that is there. But what we've been using Warcry for, and we've played almost a dozen games at this point, what we've been using it for is, hey, it's a Wednesday night, it's a Thursday night, after dinner, before bedtime. We don't have enough time to play Age of Sigmar.
No.
That's not happening.
It ain't happening. You have to do it on a weekend.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't do it.
But you can play Warcry on a weeknight easy. In fact, we've played multiple games of Warcry on weeknights.
Hardly any on weekends.
Well, weekends are for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just open it up. Drake, what do you like? Let's talk about what we like about Warcry. What are some things, if somebody out there is out there thinking, hey, I wonder if I would like Warcry. What is good about Warcry?
How short it is.
Yeah, low time commitment. Super good. Now, if you're looking for something that's really gritty and you're going to be involved and you got spreadsheets and it's going to be a big thing.
AOS.
Yeah, Age of Sigmar is there for you.
Or
Other
40K.
army games, 40K is there. We've never played 40K, but yeah, it's there for you. Those kinds of games exist.
We have
So
like
if you
30
want
40K
that,
models.
that's not Warcry, right? Warcry is the short game. But one thing,
AOS, Warcry.
very nice. But one thing that's really interesting is even though Warcry is short, it's not shallow.
Nah.
There's a lot of tactical depth to it. You still have characters that have their own abilities. You still have stats where you're looking at, oh, my strength, maybe I can hit easier on this guy than I can on this guy. And so you're constantly evaluating the strategies, and every battle plan that you draw randomly gives you different incentives. So you're doing all kinds of different things. It's really really enjoyable. What else is a positive?
How little models you have to paint.
Yeah, so if you are not a big painter,
Or
right?
builder.
Or builder, if you don't like that aspect, you're not a hobbyist in the sense that you watch all the painting videos and you get the smooth blends and the nice highlights. Yeah, there's not a lot to paint here. The terrain painted up real nice with mostly contrast paints, super quick. There's only, I think there's 13 spider guys, but 3 of them
14.
are actually spiders.
Yes.
And then there's 9 Dark Oath guys, I think. I forget how many, but it's not that many. So you're looking at building only a handful of models. So if you don't like the modeling or the painting, it's not a big investment. And if you do like the modeling and painting, well, there's only a few. So rather than, sometimes you're putting out 20 chain rasps, or maybe you're doing blocks of Skaven, and it's just paint and go, paint and go, paint and go. You're not spending a lot of time on any one model to make it look really good. Well, with so few models, you can take a little bit more time if you really enjoy that process and make your guys look pretty good. Now, I'm not the best or the biggest painter in the world, but some of these guys, they turned out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They turned out pretty good. So I thought that was pretty good, and it was good to feel some satisfaction. Like right now, I'm working on putting together some Soul Blight Gravelords, and I have a jillion models to paint, and it's a little bit daunting. I'm not excited about it.
I can do it for you. I like painting.
Oh, do you like painting?
Yes.
How's Fragrat doing?
He's almost
He's
done.
been almost done for a year. All right, but
I haven't had time.
with something like this, it's you paint a model and you're like, hey, I'm almost done. So it keeps you motivated. What else is good?
That you can activate these things.
It does have good rules, good models to it. I mean, good special abilities, and it lets you layer them up too. So if you just want the basic game, you can do that. And then in Red Harvest, there's additional rules for falling into Varanite. There's additional rules for turning on dredging equipment. So you can sort of layer that up, and those do add to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend adding those, but maybe you want to try the base game first and then layer up from there.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That this could happen. Slap.
Yes, you can knock models off. That's pretty cool. You do end up with some really cinematic moments in Warcry. We've had moments where guys jump off of buildings and
Die.
stab guys. We've had people kicked into Varanite.
And
I mean, it's really cool. You get these really cinematic, exciting moments out of Warcry.
I remember when I used a Vindictor and one shot. He jumped off and one shot your...
Yeah, he jumped down with like a spear and killed a guy. So you do end up with that. I'll add a couple things that I think are really good. The random mission and deployment, super good. It keeps the game real fresh. So you're always trying something different. You don't feel like, okay, well, I'll play this again. I'm gonna get the same experience I always get. Even if it's a good experience, at some point you feel like, I've done that.
Yeah.
This game is going to keep you from having that for quite a while because you're always trying to do something different. And if you want, I mean, you don't have to follow the cards either. So you could always just make an interesting terrain setup the way that you think would be cool and then go from there, right? Or you could almost like you pick a battle plan in AOS ahead of time, right? You could just flip through those cards and find one that you really like and say, hey, this is the one we're going to do today. Boom. So the cards make it possible to randomize, but you don't have to. You can play whatever you want.
Here's what being kicked into Varanite looks like. sizzle,
Is that what it looks like?
Sizzle, sizzle, cook, cook, sizzle, dead.
That's, yeah, it's very like that. A lot of sizzling and cooking. And the last thing I'll say is the combat is very fast.
Yes.
Age of Sigmar is great, but there's the hit roll, and then the wound roll, and then the save roll,
with rend affecting it,
and then potentially a ward roll.
That's
four different dice rolls before you know if any damage has been done. All right, that's. And sometimes there's a wound roll, like if you have D3, your wound character sees D3 or whatever. So that's a lot. That's a lot of rolling. So combat can, can take a little bit of time. Whereas here, it's one roll.
Slap.
Right? You look at my strength is 5, your toughness is 5. Let's say if the strength and toughness is the same, then I hit and do damage on 4s. If my strength is lower, your toughness, you're much more tough than I am strong, then I'm only hitting on 5s. And if you're weaker, if you're less tough than I am strong, then I'm hitting on 3s. And it's just one roll, and every hit is damage. There's no save roll, there's no wound roll. That helps the game move fast, and it helps keep it simple. If you're trying to teach somebody, you're trying to learn the game, very simple to learn. Any other big pros we should talk about?
That this could happen.
Oh, yeah. You can get knocked into the dredging equipment. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of cinematic moments where people are getting churned up, and it's
squish, squish, squish.
You get a lot of
squish,
stories
squish.
out of Warcry that are really quite fun. So cons. What do we think are negative? So what things we want to point out that are a little bit little red flags. Now, some of these cons are not bad. In fact, one of the first con I would say is it is a shorter game. We talked about this a little bit.
Yes.
If you're looking for a longer game,
this is the worst game you could get.
Don't get Warcry. Warcry's not for you. What other cons are there?
That one army could be overpowered, and this could be happening over and over. Dead.
I think in some of our battle plans, that sort of happened because we weren't able to get to the treasure or whatever.
And like 50 of them die like that.
Like AOS, your models are going to die.
Yes.
Right?
But this
one of the things is
worse.
It only happens in 4 rounds, so they got to cram all that killing into 4 rounds. So you're going to lose models. Now, I'm fine with that. I think that's part of the fun. But if you are concerned about, if you feel like, oh no, my guys are dying, that's not going to be good. But
some armies could just be so overpowered that everyone is just getting killed.
I don't think, it's a dice game, so sometimes the dice are going to be against you.
But sometimes you're just so strong. Every roll
I don't think that happens that often.
3 up, 3 up.
Well, because now you're talking about dice. Yeah, in a dice game that can happen. But I don't think it's likely that one team's going to be killing the other because every fighter has a point value. And which is their approximate strength. It's approximate. Points are an imprecise tool. But if both people bring in 1,000 points worth of models, your army should be approximately the same strength.
But
this
could still happen. What's happening?
I mean, it's just like the Stormcast and Nurgles, like we were talking about before, right? The Stormcast just squashed the Nurgles. In fact, I think I had about 13
models
or 14 Nurgle models, and by the end of the game, I'd be down to 4 Nurgle models because so many would be dead.
I can never kill Nurglings. They're just too.
The Nurglings are pretty good. Walls. You killed one once, but I would be smashed down. But lots of those games I still won because I was able to tie you up and I was able to get the objectives or whatever they were. So again, they're approximately equally strong, even if one is way better in combat and maybe the other one is way better in
Modelo.
Taking the objectives or whatever. So it's just you have to balance that. And plus, you might get a plan where the goal is to kill somebody on your team, and that would have been really hard for my Nurgle guys to kill anybody on the Stormcast team. At the end of the game, usually after 4 rounds, I might have killed 1 Stormcast model. So I don't think that's necessarily a con. One thing I'll say is a con. They're coming back to life?
No, I'm just resetting it.
Oh, okay. One thing I'll say as a con is the price tag. Like we talked about at Games Workshop, so there is that. And just to touch base with it, this is about Warcry. We're not going to really get into it, but I was looking for a skirmish game, something that we could ideally use our Warhammer models, and you can use Age of Sigmar models here.
Not 40K. 40K is
40K,
going to need different things.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole different system. But you can use your Age of Sigmar stuff here. So if you already have an Age of Sigmar army, you've got a Warcry. You got a Warcry army, right?
How many points is a vampire and zombie dragon on Warcry?
Yeah, well over 1,000 points. I'm sure. I don't think we could have him. I don't think you can bring him in. But
Strength was 10.
I know he'd be cool though.
Toughness 50.
He'd be cool. But prior to this, I got a game called Song of Blades and Heroes, which I'd heard good things about. And we played that.
Yeah.
And you can use any models for that, which is great. But it was not fun. It was a little bit too simple. There were not a lot of choices. There weren't a lot of terrain rules or other things. Now, I played the basic version. Advanced versions might be better. And in fact, that might be what somebody else is looking for. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying that the simplicity, if you're looking for something simple, you can go way down to that game. But at that point, it was so simple that all of the game choices seemed pretty obvious.
It was like long stick, medium stick, small stick, move your guys, fight, have fun.
And then once it's just surround guys and kill them, then then it's really just sort of a dice game. It's like, all right, let's see who rolls higher.
Yeah.
And that's not as fun for me. This is a few notches up, tick, 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 a few notches up in complexity, where there's enough there that you're often making tough decisions.
And there's actually terrain.
Well, yeah, but we could have used terrain for...
Song could have terrain, but this one must have terrain.
The Song of Blades and Heroes, you can use terrain, but there's not special terrain rules, really. So you're just...
Sticks.
Yeah,
you could walk through them.
No, if you had a house or whatever, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But there isn't Varanite or dredges that you can get kicked into, or special rules for jumping and falling and all that sort of stuff. So, all in all, I think Warcry hits a great balance between being simple enough to play quickly, but deep enough to give you a meaningful and fun experience. Are there cons to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every game has them.
Every game has them. Price is a little bit of a con. If you're looking for something more complicated, that's a little bit of a con. And the random elements, although you can pick in advance, but the random elements, sometimes people are going to look at that and say, it's not really what I'm looking for.
You need just straight basic stuff.
But overall, I can say that I've been really happy with Warcry. I've loved playing it. I haven't had any bad experiences other than treasure scenarios, which we've now removed.
Isn't there one treasure scenario we liked?
Maybe. I can't think of it right now.
It was either a treasure scenario we liked, or there was a twist where it was mutative spores, where the objectives were poisonous.
Oh, that was pretty fun. Yeah,
we died trying to get on those objectives.
You got the there was an objective or treasure or whatever, but the thing you needed to win poisoned you. And so there were times when on the last turn I'm trying to stay alive and it would kill me, and then somebody else would have to run over and pick it up. It was pretty fun.
Either that or an analogy just goes, someone dead?
Oh, I'll take that. I only have to hold it for one more turn. Yeah, so overall, high praise. Definitely let us know what you think. I'd be interested to know what other people think about Warcry and if they have favorite scenarios or favorite armies and fighting forces. Red Harvest comes with the Dark Oath Savagers and
Spiderfang Tarantulas Brood.
Tarantulas Brood, that's what they're called, those spider people. Brood. We've also ended up getting the Iron Golems as well as the Cainite Shadowstalkers. So we have those four. If there's other ones out there that people just are incredibly in love with, definitely let me know. I'll take a look. And we will continue to play Warcry.
I wonder when they'll make an Auroch warband, for buying. Special Auroch models.
They might. Well, not for Warcry. They have ones for the Harrow Deep. What's it called? The board gamey one.
Oh yeah, Harrow Deep. I think it's just called Harrow Deep.
I think that's what this
Harrow Deep Underworlds.
Underworlds. Warhammer Underworlds. Yeah, so they have ones for Underworlds. I don't think there's an orc one for Warcry, but you've got your Age of Sigmar model, so you could make a Warcry warband.
In fact, I could probably make a Warcry warband for orcs using the Start Collecting Iron Chest box.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
I have enough.
Yeah.
We have a War Chest.
So once you get those painted up, maybe that'll be the next Warcry band we do.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
All
almost
right.
done with the art boards.
Well,
Kind of.
this has been an episode of Battle Ready, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.